member form. The internet wasn't working. If you just paid, we don't have your information yet. If you don't mind, pick up a form and fill it out. Thank you so much. Second, if you are here for CEUs, we need your name and email address on this form. Old school. But please, I'll pass it around, fill it out with your name and email address. We will email you the form for CEUs to say that you came tonight and all things else. When the workshop is finished, hold, Kathy has something to say. You can fill, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I forgot that you just fill out one form and we're gonna save the trees. After the workshop is done, you will see Kathy to fill out your RID number, and that's how you will get your CEUs. So the workshop is 1 hour, and we're starting 15 minutes late. And we'll continue it on for 15 minutes after. So it will turn out to be 1 complete hour. So let's all give a round of applause for our workshop leader, Miss Naisha Washington Shepherd. She's a wonderful, and been here all week and been excited about it. So I'm gonna pass out the form. If you just joined, please fill out. If you have joined before, put your name and email address on the form. Thank you so much, and I'll give it over to Naisha now. Usually for cultural considerations, we allow the form to be passed out first, but we will just go ahead with it. So my topic tonight is, it's really important in the overall general perspective. Most important is that we see the interpreters don't see and have to expand things. So I started, first, let me explain who I am. Naisha Shepherd. I got married in 2009, feels like a long time ago. I'm newly married, I enjoy my married life. I have 1 daughter, and a second one on the way. We don't know if it's a boy or a girl yet. With Team Green, we are Team Green. And if you don't know what it means, we have Team Blue for boys, and Team Pink for girls, and Team Green is for the people who do not know. I've been living in DC. I was born and raised in New Orleans. Where to be exact, I was the only one I was the only deaf person in the hearing family. And they signed exact English. Oral, of course, being raised. And I got exposed and graduated. I was the first deaf. Graduated in 2009 from the School for the Deaf. I loved staying on the campus, and round trip from home, I would go home for a month. I would travel to many different states. Same as here as Gallaudet.
That is what I learned, and I realized the difference between my hearing family and my deaf family. The cultures were just totally different, but I do recognize that both of those are within me. I hadn't been able to pick out specifically what it was that I identified with until I came out into the general world. Once I started encountering different things, that's how I learned. Of course, when I was younger, I had experiences, good and bad, but once I got out into the real world and saw things really happening, that's where I really understood what was going on and knew the differences between what I had seen previously and what I saw here on campus. Once I got exposed to the life of a signing individual and those here on campus, I realized who I really was, and it helped me to grow socially. I was able to teach. I met some counselors. I had some advisors, just a plethora of different people who touched me, who made me who I am today. I actually had one person who said to me that I should become a CDI. Now, I never really knew what that meant. So this person sat me down and explained specifically, said, you know, you'll be the one who can translate. Since you can lip read, you have different skills to another person who may not have those types of skills, where they may not even understand the interpreters. Perhaps they are not skilled with sign language as of yet, maybe they're emerging signers. Now, I must go back and say, as I was growing up in the hearing family, I could understand what was going on, and then I would explain it to my deaf friends. That is all within me. I even worked with deaf-blind individuals before when I was younger, doing tactile interpreting, making sure they understood everything that was going on. So I decided, well, hey, yeah, that does sound great. So I guess I'll go ahead and join and start learning to be a CDI. So that is how I became a deaf interpreter, translator, more than interpreter, shall I say. Translation, I say that simply because I'm giving American Sign Language just in a different manner, easier to understand. So I say I'm a translator. I do travel as well. I have taught in Costa Rica. I was there for around 6 months as a Spanish teacher. I then went to teach in Spain. I worked there as well with the Spanish language because that was one of my minors, was education. And that actually helped me in my translation, English to Spanish, Spanish to English, etc. So all that I just described makes me who I am. I've continued learning, and my experiences from around 5 years ago up until now, I can now sit back and realize I am a deaf woman. I am a patient. I am able to sit back and see the interpreters as they produce. And one thing I've noticed that is vitally important is the body language. Your facial expressions, of course, are important, but it all is encompassing of your body language. So I want to go in a little bit deeper about body language and movement. That's what we'll be discussing tonight, and how it relates to communication. Because often, that population may be viewing you, but that facial expression, you may not understand exactly why you're getting that response. So I'll discuss that tonight. Of course, body language. Oh, I forgot I need to stay in the camera. Okay, as you can see here, as you sit back and watch, you know, the body language is easy to be seen. As you see on the illustration, there are people sitting back and watching. The interpreter, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, they are listening to the speaker or whatever is being said, and they are producing it an effective communication through American Sign Language. Now, of course, the body language and movement can vary. One thing that does assist communication for the audience the communication part is what's vital to be shared for the audience. Now we'll discuss what should the interpreter be doing if they're trying to match what is being done on stage. What should the interpreter, how should they be moving? As you can see on the screen here, Some body language includes your posture, because there are some that stand straight up, some that may slouch over. The movement within there, it has an impact as well. You're able to see if you're tired, if you're excited, everything is included with that nonverbal communication. Where your signs are, the eye contact, gestures, how large your use of space is. If you happen to sign small, or if you're struggling to hear, your audience can catch that piece of communication. Or if you're getting feedback from the audience that, oh, I can't hear you, I can't understand you, there is a need for that so that you can adjust your signs and your communication style effectively. There's a long list that will be encompassed in this. It's not just what you see here. Of course, there is much more with your facial expressions, your movement, if you're happy, if you're sad, etc. That is all included in your body language. Now, the list you see before you, if it was not available and it was no longer there, what would happen? Anybody in the audience? Somebody respond. What would happen if this was not available? Audience member says you will be stagnant. The audience will be frozen. Another audience member is saying the communication would not be equal to the message. Another audience member says there would be a gap between the levels of understanding. Anyone else? Oh, got one more. Communication. For communication access, can we please copy sign, because it's very difficult to see with the setup of the room. Oh, okay. Okay, from here on out, we'll go ahead and make sure that we copy sign. Are there any other comments if all of these are not present? If these were not present, maybe there would be complaints. Maybe, oh, I can't understand. Maybe the message would not connect with the audience members. Maybe people would give up and leave. There are several impacts of a disconnected message. The best message has you drawn in and you want to see exactly what's going on. Let me show you what I'm speaking of. The picture that I just showed was for a hearing audience. So now we're going to talk about how it would pertain to a deaf or hard of hearing audience. There may be hearing audience will just be here just to see you and bored and saying, oh, well, I'm glad the interpreter here. Listen, I'm glad they're here interpreting. I'm just going to go ahead. I need to eat this food and get my CEU. I totally understand. It's fine. That's just like what you would do if you were in this photo. Would you really enjoy it or not? The best language would draw you in, and the interpreter would be able to really produce a great interpretation. If you're matching the inflection and then it becomes flat, the interpreter must also match that flatness. So you want to make sure that the message is the same. If there's laughter, you want to make sure that the message is shown to the deaf or hard of hearing audience equally so they can laugh as well. If the inflection is there, you want to make sure your signs are there to hold the audience's interest and keep them interested, and you can do that by use of body language. If it's not the best, of course, perhaps you may have a nervous interpreter and the communication will suffer. And that's an example of bad body language. Oh, what time is it? Make sure I'm keeping an eye.
So, good language expectations have these lists of things, these bubbles attached to the nonverbal communication. I'm sure you've already seen. an interpreter with the video camera on YouTube and Vine. How many of you seen the interpreter on those platforms? Have you never seen one? Some of you have never seen one? Some of you have? Vimo. Oh, okay, good. Have y'all? Vimo, okay, good. So on YouTube and other, I'm not sure how interpreters put up their videos, maybe on Facebook, I don't know. It's most common on Facebook. Some of you have seen good and some of them, okay. Some of them you're like, oh my gosh, wow, right? I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I'm being honest, I'm a deaf person, I've seen it, and I'm like, oh my, and some of them like, yeah, and some of them like, I don't know. But I mean, my experience has been, my personal experience, one person, they want to sign ASL for music, let's say. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I know the area of music has taken off and people want to learn ASL for signing music, but as far as an interpretation, and that's why they want to become an interpreter. Okay, you know, that's good, but at the same time, you have to think, I mean, maybe they could just take advantage of that success. You know, that they're only doing ASL to take off, and they're going to be hurting the deaf community in the process. I mean, it's happened, you know, it's sad to say, but I mean, we try to rein them back in, but they're like, oh no, I know better, this is song, you know, and I'm like, no, ask, you need to be included in our community and us to work together as a team. And you have to explain to that person what they're doing. And then they might understand it, you know, we might think it's an insult, but you've seen many of you in songs on video and many people who sign in videos, you know, and I know it's their choice and they made a choice to go ahead and do it. But again, you know, it's the body language and how you produce the visuality of the language. Does that mean that ASL is a business and that interpreters enjoy that? I mean, for example, Tina and Paul, have you seen them, their videos, Tina and Paul? Well, okay, you know, those two are interpreters. They're not interpreters, they no sign, but not ASL. You know, they sign with the song. And many people all over, hearing and deaf alike, they are enthralled with it. But they're not interpreters, they're learners of sign. That's it. I mean, what happens when they send out that video on or send out the GoFundMe page? They need money for this and that. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's, you know, that's my gut alarm going off saying, no, I'm done with that. And people send them money, you know, but you have to stop. From what I can see, it stopped. That, and I have to plug, I don't know.
They are hurting our deaf community because they're just taking advantage, trying to get money, which they got, and now they stop. So this is the thing to think about. I'm going to show you some statistics now. A pie chart. This is proof of the language and what is important. As you can see here, 55% is body language. So when a presenter presents, what they're actually saying is only 7% of importance. How they sound and the message received is around 38%. The body language is the largest percent for the audience. And that's how the audience will enjoy or not enjoy, depending on the presenter. It all depends on the body movements, and this is proof. It is vital as interpreters, CDIs, DIs, translators, etc., to make sure that you are expressing the intent of the presenter. Any questions? No? Okay, well, I'll move on. I'm going to go back. We started very general, and now we're getting much more specific. I'll say that interpreters don't see what we see. Can you guess exactly what that means?
Just curious.
What is your guess? What is that? What is it that we can see that interpreters can't see? Audience? What can we see? When the interpreter is working, that is what the audience members are looking at. They can see the interpreter, but then they may also see what is being missed. The interpreter may be producing, but is not able to see something vitally important. Tell me, what is the one thing that they cannot see? The spirit? Audience?
What deaf people see?
My take would be the extra language things that aren't specifically produced. Oh, we have a copy sign? Thank you. For example, the specific facial expressions, or if by chance the interpreter is not matching the presenter. A deaf person can see the presenter and see the interpreter and be able to pick up on those slight mannerisms, perhaps. Okay, anyone else? We have another. Thinking about the exaggerated signs by chance, an over movement of the face or the mouth morphemes. The mouth morphemes, correct? Anyone else would like to add? No? Okay. Well, then I shall continue. LE&C, Sean just talked about the history of what we've gone through, the language. E is the experiences. Sometimes hearing depend on what's being said more than their experience. Every so often, it may connect to their past, but there is a plethora of experiences that can be incorporated into American Sign Language. The N is the net, or what is captured. The intent, or the net of what is being captured. So LENC, C is the culture. Of course, it is a name. And there's many that are not able to see that. Perhaps interpreters are there, or if they're getting feedback, they are ignoring that piece of feedback, and it's vital. It's something that will change the interpretation. It's very important, and the interpreter should accept it, because this may be the person who has the LENC that would aid the interpretation. That history, that prior knowledge should not be ignored. Whether it be deaf or hard of hearing, the culture, the audience should not be ignored. LENC. Oh, we have a hand. To clarify, the culture of the speaker or the culture of the interpreter? The culture of the deaf audience. What you don't see, what we do see that we may be trying to feed are these things: the language, the experience, the net, and our culture. So that's specifically we're speaking of with the deaf or hard of hearing audience. So LENC is listed here on the PowerPoint slide. So our LENC, I'll give you an example of. Let's say your deaf audience may need you to present something in Word. Maybe their English is not strong. Maybe they would prefer it to be conceptually ASL. Of course, for the school system, you have to follow the English, specifically what's being said, the vocabulary, etc. What may happen later is they may need assistance from a friend in everyday life to translate what exactly the intent of the delivery is. Of course, interpreters are able to hear the mistakes or new words because you hear those daily. When it comes to sign, you may need to go to a deaf consumer mentor to help because they have gone through the struggles and kind of like a coal miner. They've dug out and figured out the content and how to present it in American Sign Language. Whereas the hearing interpreter may be able to hear, they would need to depend on that deaf consumer who has a skill of American Sign Language to support this. Because the hearing interpreter has the skill of English who may be able to support the deaf consumers, and we could meet there in the middle.
So we need and we should have these. How many of you have how many of you have ASL translators? How many of you have that side of you? How many of you have that support? Nobody? There's nobody? Okay. What about ASL tutors? Okay. So so English and ASL, we're focusing on the language and switching of those two languages. I'm not talking word for word, no. I mean, talking about the wholeness of switching those languages. We're not talking about the words or just the facial expressions, the foundations of ASL. How many understand not English, the understanding the foundations of ASL? Maybe a deaf mentor. Does anyone, how many people have a deaf mentor that can help on an everyday basis? That anyone, like at a deaf church, or, well, maybe not a deaf church, maybe deaf school, or a deaf friend that you socialize with. I mean, take advantage of that. Ask them to help you. You know, talk with them and go through the coal miner steps and build out those nuggets. I mean, we have concerns that, I mean, I don't understand this piece right here, and then you can meet them and they can meet you on level playing fields and be able to understand each other better. Many CDIs are out there. Use them. It is fine. It is perfectly okay, you know, to have a different lens from which we view the world clearly. I mean, they're a wonderful resource. Take advantage of them. We should have these people in our lives. Okay, I'm done. Wow, 15. All right. So switching hats now. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. Everyone, let's give a round of applause for Sheila. Naisha. How do you say it? How would you say what? How do you pronounce my name? Naisha, yeah. make sure we're right. Understand. Okay, so for all who want CEUs, Kathy, oh, there you are, back there. She's hiding on me. You're all the way in the back. All right, so if you would like CEUs, please see Kathy. There, don't crowd her. Make a form a line, nice and neat. Next, we'll have a general body meeting. And please hold. We're having a